UFC 288 Sterling versus Cejudo full card predictions. We're starting at the very bottom of the card. I was just about to go over the Daniel Santos and Johnny Munoz Jr. fight, but that fight has been removed due to an injury from Daniel Santos. Therefore, first fight of the night is Joseph Holmes and Claudio Ribeiro. What an awesome fight. What an amazing high-level fight to start off. UFC 288. Just two of the best in the world going at it, in Holmes and Claudio Ribeiro. I'm going with Claudio Ribeiro to get it done. I think Ribeiro's a little bit better on the feet. I mean Joseph Holmes, yeah, he's not terrible. He's I guess solid everywhere, but not great anywhere. Sort of deal there. I mean his grappling's okay, but it's not great. I mean he got submitted by Jun Young Park in the first round. I think it might have been the second round actually, if I'm not mistaken there. His fight before that, Alan Amedovski does look good in that fight. Throws a beautiful knee up the middle, which catches Amedovski, puts him, well, really drops him bad, hurts him bad, and then jumps on him for the submission. And then in his first UFC fight, loses to Jamie Pickett by decision. It's like you lost to Jamie Pickett. That's not a good look whatsoever. When you look at Claudio Ribeiro, sure, he lost to Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but Al Hassan's a pretty solid fighter. Good power, and Al Hassan couldn't get him down. I think if this is a striking fight, I think it's definitely going to favor Claudio, and I think he will be able to stop the takedowns of Joseph Holmes. Therefore, I'm going with Claudio Ribeiro to get it done. Holmes is also very hittable. I'll say that. Holmes is very hittable, so I think Claudio could clip him and hurt him bad, or even take a decision if it goes all three, just by being the striker that lands more powerful shots on the feet. Next is Zhalgas Zhumagulov taking on Rafael Estevam. Now I'll tell you guys, I really wanted to go Zhalgas Zhumagulov here because I think Zhalgas is actually pretty solid. In all fairness, I think Zhalgas is, he's makes fights close, which you can respect. I mean, like he's in some very close fights where you don't know who's going to win, but then he complains about the decision not going his way, and it's like you can't really complain about it not going your way if you're purposely. Well, I'm sure it's not purposely. He's doing his best in there, but if you're landing shots and then your opponent's throwing, and then it's a very, very close fight. It's hard to predict who's going to win. You gotta make a difference. You gotta show the judges, right, that you're the one that's doing more. You're the one that's pressing the action. You're the one that's landing the better shots, the more damaging shots. Getting the takedowns, getting the wrestling going. And it just seems like he hasn't really been able to do that much, in my opinion, in his fights. And against a guy like Rafael Estevam, who's a jiu-jitsu black belt, who, sure, we haven't seen too much out of, especially against the competition level that Zhalgas has fought. Zhalgas has contemplated retiring after his last fight because of that, how that fight went. So it's like, is his head going to be in it as much? Is he going to want the win as much as Estevam if it comes down to it in the third round? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Estevam is the one that's going to be pressing the action more, is probably going to be able to get some of the takedowns. Zhalgas is also kind of getting old for the division, almost 35 years old. Regardless if, some of those losses weren't really they were close losses or could have went his way. He is 1-4 in his last 5. Estevam is the young guy. Always, should be constantly improving. Cardio should be perfectly fine. The only thing I would be worried about is if this was really close and Zhalgas started to take over a little bit as the rounds go on. But I do think Estevam is good enough to get it done. Good ground and pound as well. Good grappling, good ground and pound. His last fight on the Contender Series, his opponent was throwing up a bunch of submissions from his back, and that opponent, Jaio Elias, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he actually has a lot of submission wins on his record, 17-4, with 11 of his wins coming by submission. Estevam was staying clear of any submission threat, so it's like he knows what he's doing on the mat, and if he does get Zhalgas down, it probably could be trouble for Zhalgas. We'll see how that goes, though. Next one is Ikram Aliskerov versus Phil Hawes. Oh, man. I'll tell you guys what, I was really contemplating an underdog pick on Phil Hawes here, but with that being said, I feel like Phil Hawes is one of those guys where he's not terrible at all. Actually, I think he's very skilled. In all honesty, I think Phil Hawes might be more skilled like in MMA than Ikram Aliskerov is, but Phil Hawes just finds ways to lose fights. And I hate to say it, but he just does. He finds ways to lose. He does like stupid crap and levels of competition that he shouldn't be losing to sometimes. He loses to, right? If you look at the guy, good striking, um, good wrestling. His wrestling is, D1 level. He wrestled at Iowa State. I'm pretty sure he was a JUCO national champion. Then he transferred over to Iowa State and wrestled there. So high level wrestling, right? Can take down a lot of opponents. But in his last fight against Roman Dolidze 5 months ago, which, by the way, 5 months ago, after Roman Dolidze pretty much tears his knee apart, then Phil Hawes gets back up. He looks visibly injured. And then what happens right after that? Roman Dolidze knocks him out on the feet. 5 months ago, he got put to sleep. Now he's fighting Ikram, a guy who, sure, Ikram's not the most powerful guy. He's not like a round one going to go out there and flatline people. Um, but Ikram does throw flying knees, and his flying knees are actually fairly accurate in my opinion. Like from what I've seen, like he actually has pretty good time like flying knees. Um, he has good like decent head kicks too. His punch, like his boxing is not terrible. I mean, Phil Hawes is definitely going to be like the faster guy, but if Ikram wears on him, Phil Hawes has. There's two problems I see with Phil Hawes. The two problems I see mainly with Phil Hawes is that is the reason why he loses, I should say. Those two problems are his chin and his gas tank. Or I'm sorry, his chin and his gas tank. Right, his chin. I'll start with that. His chin, not the best chin. Let's just be honest. Um, he gets hit a lot, and he doesn't. When he does get hit clean, he doesn't take punches well. He doesn't take damage well. Against Chris Curtis, that was really bad. He got hit once, and he was basically done for. And granted, it was Chris Curtis, and I do like Chris Curtis quite a lot. I think Chris Curtis is good boxing, powerful guy. If you get hit clean from Chris Curtis, he can do a lot of damage. But just seeing him get one punch by Delete. Well, I mean Delete was kind of a combination, but one punch really knocked him out cold from Chris Curtis. Same thing, right on the button. And then his other knockout loss was against Julian Marquez on the Contender Series. That was years ago on the Contender Series. But again, it was Phil Hawes who was getting pieced up on the feet. He shot a takedown, and then he was getting gassed out. He was getting tired. He tried to stand up along the cage, and Marquez head kicked him and knocked him out. Maybe Ikram doesn't have amazing cardio or anything, but like Phil Hawes, man, he's training out of Tiger Muay Thai. I'll give him that. Switched gyms from Killcliff, which Killcliff's a good gym. I don't know why he went to Tiger Muay Thai. I mean, I guess he wants to improve his striking for this fight, but what you really have to improve is your cardio, and maybe they'll help him with his. Well, obviously not with his chin, but maybe it'll help him with keeping his hands up and being a smarter striker. Knowing if you're tired, don't try to like lean forward and throw shitty punches where you can get countered or put yourself in a vulnerable position. I'm sure he is improving on that, like improving in his striking, which is going to make him like going to be harder for Ikram to knock him out or catch him. But if Ikram tries to grind him like up against the cage, tries to wear on him, it's going to be tough for Phil Hawes. I really do. I think as the fight goes on, Ikram's going to start to take over. If Hawes, I believe, will have some success early. I think Hawes is like I said, he's very skilled. He's training at Tiger Muay Thai now, so he'll probably look good early. But as he starts to gas out, as he starts to get worn down by Ikram, I feel like Ikram will take over and could even find a late finish because Ikram is very good. His only loss was to Khamzat Chimaev, in which he got flatlined himself, but it's Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, Chimaev would do the same thing to Phil Hawes in all honesty. So the pick is Ikram Aliskerov. Oh, man. Yeah. Parker Porter and Braxton Smith is next. And let me tell you guys something, right? I actually picked Parker Porter in his last fight against Justin Tafa. It's on video. I hate that it's on video, but that I actually picked Parker Porter to win that fight. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, Justin Tafa, right? 5-3. Doesn't have anywhere near the experience of you, Parker Porter, and you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So what do? Do you try to take him down? Do you try to hold him against the cage? Do you try to wear him down a little bit? Nope. You get in a brawl with him and get knocked out in the first round very easily because you have zero fight IQ. Now, The one thing Parker Porter does have is pretty good cardio if the fight goes on. His opponent, Braxton Smith, if you look at the beautiful monster, Braxton Smith, he has not been out of the first round in his entire career. And after losing to Chase Sherman, the Vanilla Gorilla, you guys know him, the GOAT Chase Sherman. After losing to Chase Sherman, he comes back 8 years later and fights an 0-0 opponent, Cody Beck, and then fights the same guy, Ja'Cory Savage, twice to get into the UFC. Fights absolute bums on the regional scene. I'm like, what the hell is Peak Fighting Texas? Peak Fighting 27? What promotion? I've never even heard of that promotion. I've never heard of that promotion. Peak Fighting. Um, and B2 Fighting Series in Arkansas. That's where he made a name for himself to get into the UFC. If Parker Porter loses this fight, he should call it quits and never fight again. Oh man, dude, Braxton Smith hasn't been over like half of a round in his entire career. Um, I got to go with Parker Porter. I really don't want to after what he did last fight, his lack of fight IQ. Absolutely embarrassing. But then again, it's Justin Tafa. Dude hits hard. It's like whatever. And then against Jailton Almeida, that's a forgivable loss. I mean, what's he going to do against Jailton Almeida? Jailton Almeida's a guy with incredible grappling. So it's like I'm not going to hold that against him. But as you've seen, Parker Porter can beat guys. Can beat guys like Chase Sherman, like Alan Badeau, and like Josh Parisian. And those guys are all more experienced than Braxton Smith, probably more skilled than Braxton Smith. I think the only way Braxton Smith wins is obviously by first round knockout, and really first 2.5 minute knockout. And if he doesn't win in the first half of the first round, I think Parker Porter is just going to dominate him for the rest of the fight until he either finishes the fight or Porter just ends up winning by decision. Um, but I'll give him one more chance. But if he loses this fight, he's probably going to be cut or retire. But seriously, this is such a winnable fight for Parker Porter. He has to survive 2.5 minutes. He knows what's coming at him here. If he tries to wrestle, he'll probably have success, or at least if you try to wrestle, put that in Braxton Smith's head so he won't just charge in and try to knock you out. He'll know that a takedown could be coming. But yeah, I'm going with Parker Porter. Not the most confidence because of what happened last fight against Tafa, but Tafa's a better striker than Smith is. Next is Marina Rodriguez and Virna Jandiroba. I'm going to go with Virna Jandiroba here. I know a lot of people are on the side of Marina Rodriguez, but Marina Rodriguez opened up as a huge favorite, and now the line's even closer, I believe, than minus 165, if I'm not mistaken. For Marina, her last fight, she got knocked out by Amanda Lemos. In Virna Jandiroba's last fight, she beat Angela Hill. The thing that I like out of Virna is that she will wrestle, she will grapple. She knows that she's got decent, actually pretty good jiu-jitsu. Sometimes though, like what I didn't like to see in the Angela Hill fight was her like falling back for submissions and like not diving, like trying to like force guillotines or just random submissions like that where she's putting herself on her back. But like I said, she does have good jiu-jitsu. She does have a lot of submission wins on her record. And against someone like Marina Rodriguez, who's basically like pretty much a pure striker, I would say, she's going to have a striking advantage, but I'm going to roll the dice with the underdog in the terms of Virna just being able to wrestle, being able to at least control Marina for a little bit of this fight. That's got to be her game plan, I would imagine, right? Her game plan has to be to wrestle Marina Rodriguez, to grapple with her. And if she doesn't do that, or if she can't do that, it's Marina Rodriguez will probably win the fight by decision, just outstriking her clearly and easily. But like I said, it's a decent underdog pick in Jandiroba just for the simple fact that she has the grappling upside, and if she does get Marina to the ground, she does have a serious threat of winning the fight with a submission or even trying to ground and pound. So a little bit of a risky pick there. I'm not the most confident in it, but I figured, I got to throw in an underdog somewhere. And Virna doesn't look really like a bad underdog against Marina, just because, like I said, of the grappling threat. Next is Chaos Williams and Rolando Bedoya. Uh, what do you guys want me to say here? I mean, Rolando Bedoya has been fighting bums on the Peru regional scene. When you look at a guy with a 14-1 record, sometimes you're like, all right, well, who's he fighting, right? Is he fighting at least, decent level of competition? And you would think, oh, he's beaten 10-1 opponent, 17-6 opponent, and then you're looking and you're like, all right. But then you look at the event, right? A Peru event, so it's not it's not a Cage Fury, it's not a Cage Warriors, it's not a what else? It's not an LFA. It's not something like that where you're like, all right, it's pretty good competition, or at least it's decent promotion. He's just fighting just random guys, um, and he's stepping in there against Chaos Williams, who Chaos Williams has been fighting some of the best fighters in the UFC. Well, not like obviously the top of the top, but he has been fighting good competition in the UFC. Lost a split to Randy Brown in his last fight. Beat Miguel Baeza, who I actually think is pretty good, training out of MMA Masters. Matthew Semmelsberger he beat as well. And we all know Matthew Semmelsberger's got a lot of power. Pretty good all around as well. He lost to Jeremiah Wells, but Jeremiah Wells is a beast, tank. Um, and then loses to Michelle Pereira. So it's like, and then he also beats Abdul Razak Al Hassan, knocks him out. I just think Chaos Williams, he's fought. Obviously, he has the UFC experience. He has the power. Pretty much in all of his fights, he's like that scares a lot of opponents off. Just the power he has, and I think Bedoya is going to just fall right into that trap. You know what I mean? I feel like Bedoya hasn't really fought at UFC level competition. This is a huge step up for him. Um, we've seen some of the Peru guys before, like get in the UFC and just not look good, and just look completely like outclassed because they haven't fought the level of competition, and they have great records and all, like 14-1, but when you fight the real UFC level guys, that's when it's like, all right, your record's getting put to the test. And I think Cass Williams is going to knock him out probably pretty early, I would imagine. Um, Cass Williams first round is my pick. Next is Devin Clark and Kennedy and Zetriku. You know, this is one where, oddly enough, I can see Devin Clark winning and just me being pissed off so badly for not picking him, because I could just see it happening. Like, you know what I mean? I could just envision it, and I know how like pissed I would be if I just saw Devin Clark winning and I didn't go with the underdog. But I feel like Kennedy and Zetriku is probably gonna be the side here, only because, well, he's clearly the more powerful guy, right? Clearly the more powerful guy. I'm not really thinking Devin Clark's gonna out wrestle him. I think Kennedy probably wins a decision, or I don't know if we'll find a knockout. Devin Clark's actually relatively durable. I mean, he has gotten finished a few times, but if you look through his record, I mean, he's not getting like finished or like knocked out, I should say, by a lot of guys. He lost to Azamat Mirzakhanov, who hits really hard, and lost in the third round there. I mean, his win against William Knight, to me, doesn't really mean anything at this point. But he did beat Da Un Jung. Kennedy and Zetriku has a loss to Da Un Jung, but Da Un Jung's a weird type of fighter. I never really know what I'm going to get exactly out of Da Un Jung. But, I'm going to go with Kennedy and Zetriku here. I think he gets it done. Both guys training out of a pretty good gym. Devin Clark training out of Team Elevation. Kennedy out of Fortis. But I just think, and I do believe Kennedy has a pretty big size advantage too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, big size advantage for Kennedy. And he should be able to just outstrike. Look at that reach advantage, right? I know a lot of people say reach doesn't really matter in MMA, or like reach advantage. People overrate that too much. But when you have like an 8-inch reach advantage and a height advantage and everything, and you're a striker, that can really help you out, I believe, especially for Kennedy. I feel like he can get it done here against Devin Clark. Um, Next is Drew Dober, I believe a teammate of Devin Clark. Drew Dober and Matt Frivola. In this one, I'm going to roll with the underdog, actually. I'm going to roll with the underdog and Matt Frivola. Reason being is Drew Dober is good, but he's his chin is really the best. Honestly, his chin is uncrackable as far as I don't think he's ever gonna just be put to sleep. He's gotten hit by a ton of shots and he just doesn't go out. He has been dropped, but he just if he does get dropped, he'll try to like wrestle up like against McKinney. But against a guy like Matt Frivola is a pretty solid wrestler himself. I feel like he'll have to wrestle in this fight. I believe he will mix in the wrestling, like striking and the wrestling, and I think that would be a very smart idea because if he just keeps this on the feet the whole time, he does have power himself. I mean, we've seen him knock out Ataman Zaitar and Gennaro Valdez. He really hurt Gennaro Valdez. He dropped him like 4 times, put a bad beating on him, and then against Ataman Zaitar knocked him out early in the first round. So for Frivola, and then his losses before that were to Terrence McKinney and Arman Sarukian. Terrence McKinney got chinned in 7 seconds. I mean, that was a perfect shot from McKinney. McKinney starts really quickly. And McKinney, in that fight against Dober, sure, Dober's chin held up, but he got dropped a few times by McKinney. It's like McKinney's just one of those guys, you know what I mean? I think for Dober's got the power. Dober absolutely has the power to put out Frivola. But I feel like Frivola, if he just plays this smart, and by smart I mean think of the Jalen Turner fight. He won 30-27 in that fight. Think of the Jalen Turner fight for Frivola. He's fighting a guy that's a better striker than him or a guy that has more power. He looked to wrestle a lot in that fight. I think Frivola can do the same in this one. Just try to be, I don't want to say Marab-esque, but just constant wrestling. Maybe mix in a little bit of striking because Drew Dober is hittable. Drew Dober's definitely hittable and he can be dropped and he can be hurt. But it's just, even if he does get hurt, he just recovers really quickly, and his chin, like, he just has like pretty much a granite chin. So even if he does, gets dropped for a second, he's just right back up like nothing happened. But like I said, I just think this is a Frivola type of spot just because also Aljo's fighting on this card, his teammate. I guess I'm foreshadowing that pick a little bit, but I think Longo and Weidman Jim is going to do pretty well tonight, or not tonight, Saturday night. And I think that'll start with the steamroll of Matt Frivola getting it done in an upset. Like I said, good striking, obviously, out of Dober. If you look through a lot of his fights, though, the way he loses fights is by getting just basically out-grinded, out-grappled a lot of the time. And he hasn't, like, sure, some of his losses, like Benil Dariush, Islam Makhachev, like those guys finishing him, it's like those guys are both, like, high level grapplers, and I mean really high level, way higher level than Frivola. But Frivola is a guy who's not going to get tired. He's going to keep pushing the pace. He's going to, probably shoot over and over again. And I just feel like this is a spot where Frivola can get it done. To start off the main card, we have Kron Gracie versus Charles Jourdain. I'm going to have to go with Charles Jourdain, and I understand trust me, I understand the jiu-jitsu of Kron Gracie is unbelievable, and if he gets Jourdain to the ground, it's probably going to be a wrap. In all honesty, I wouldn't hate to see Gracie win by sub here, just because I feel like it would be just a cool way to start the main card off. So I'm not going to say like I would like hate to see that happen at all, honestly, but I just feel like if I'm going to make an honest pick, I feel like Jourdain should be the one to get it done, should be able to avoid the submission threats of Gracie. If he doesn't get taken down, which he's got to be working on. I mean, this camp's got to be focused only on just, defending any of the grappling that Gracie can. I mean, trust me, if the fight goes to the ground, if Gracie's, in a dominant position, he's probably going to submit Jourdain. He's probably going to finish him, but Jourdain is a black belt himself. He should be aware enough to, try not to put himself in any risky positions, although that is kind of the way he fights. But Gracie taking, what, 4 years off, 3.5 years off, you just don't like to see it. You know what I mean? And he's about to be 35 now against a guy 27, Charles Jourdain. Um, it's a risky pick. I mean, it's certainly Gracie can win. He has the ability to win. He has a big, grappling edge, obviously, against Jourdain. But Jourdain's the MMA fighter, much more MMA experience. MMA is not jiu-jitsu. So for that reason, I got to go with Charles Jourdain here. Next up is Movsar Evloev versus Diego Lopez. I'm going with Movsar Evloev. The fight, I was actually going to pick Movsar to beat Bryce Mitchell as well. I thought that was actually probably going to be my lock of the card. In all honesty, I thought Movsar was going to easily, not easily, but definitely 30-27 Bryce Mitchell. Just because I don't think Bryce Mitchell is on that kind of next level. I think Bryce Mitchell is good, but I don't think he's on that next level of like a Movsar Evloev. Diego Lopez, this is a short notice fight for him. He's getting fed to the wolves here. This Movsar Evloev hasn't finished anybody in the UFC decisions all the way through. This could be his first finish in the UFC. Even if it's not, though, it should be a Movsar Evloev dominant win. The odds I don't think are out on it yet, but I would imagine Movsar is probably close to like a -800, and rightfully so. He's the undefeated fighter. He's fought good competition. He just beat up Dan Ige badly, destroyed Dan Ige. Now Diego Lopez is coming in off the regional scene. I don't know. I'm going Movsar Evloev. I think he'll get it done easily. Could find his first finish in the UFC, but if not, should 30-27 Diego Lopez. The featured fight of the night is Jessica Andrade versus Yan Xiaonan. And you know what? Why not go with both women's underdogs on the card? Two women's fights. I believe there's two women's fights on the card, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yes. Yeah. Two women's fights on the card. I'm taking underdogs in both of them just because it's like, I think Yan Xiaonan. One thing I actually will point out that a lot of people have mentioned that I kind of like to hear was obviously the Team Alpha Male. They're both training. Yan Xiaonan and Song Yadong both training at Team Alpha Male. People are saying, well, maybe Song Yadong got the win. Maybe that'll, maybe it'll keep running through the gym and Yan Xiaonan will get a win here. And obviously that's not the reason I think she's going to win or the reason I'm picking her, but that is definitely like a, well, Song was an underdog as well. Maybe, both of them are underdogs that come through. They're going to be obviously good grappling or good wrestling defense. Song Yadong showed great wrestling defense. I think Yan Xiaonan will show good defensive grappling here. In her fight against Carla Esparza, sure, it didn't look good. She didn't look good against Carla Esparza, but her striking is actually pretty crisp, pretty clean. And I think she can actually outstrike Andrade here. Andrade is cutting down, back down to 115 after being at 125 against Erin Blanchfield and losing that, looking bad in the striking, by the way. She got outstruck. It was 2 months ago. 2 months ago, she just fought at 125, got outstruck by Erin Blanchfield and then submitted. But if you're getting, Erin Blanchfield's not really a striker, right? So if you're getting outstruck by Erin Blanchfield, easily outgrappled by Erin Blanchfield, and they're coming back down in weight after only 2-month layoff, coming back down in weight to 115, 10 pounds lighter, to fight someone like Yan Xiaonan, who's going to be knowing, right, like this is her time if she wants to, potentially get a title shot or, get to that next level. She's got to get a win here. Andrade, very good fighter, absolutely, has a lot of power, but I think Yan Xiaonan will just be able to outpoint her to a win here. And I don't think a lot of people are picking Yan Xiaonan. Barely anyone, not even 20%. So I'll take the underdog there in Yan Xiaonan. Next up is Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns. Again, none of you guys are going to like this one. None of you at all. But I'm just going to tell you the truth. I think Bilal Muhammad wins. I think Bilal Muhammad beats Gilbert Burns. I think I don't know how Gilbert Burns. You could say how's Bilal's cardio going to look. How's Gilbert's cardio going to look if this gets to the fourth and the fifth round? I think Bilal Muhammad will be able to push more in the later rounds than Gilbert Burns will, and that can make a big difference. And I'll tell you guys what, as much as guys, I know Gilbert Burns has, we've a lot of people have kind of, including me, have kind of questioned his chin in the past, and he has been knocked down more than once with the jab, but he has recovered and been okay. Um, Against Chimaev, obviously he got knocked down with the jab, recovered, and took a lot of shots from Chimaev, but still ate them all and didn't get knocked out. And Chimaev, we know how hard Chimaev can crack. So Burns, I don't think he has a bad chin, but it's just I feel like if he gets tired, right? I feel like if he gets tired, Bilal can start to really piece him up and start to hurt him a little bit, start to crack him a little bit in the later rounds. I think Bilal's a very smart fighter, and I really like Gilbert Burns. I'll say that as well. I really like Gilbert Burns. I think Gilbert Burns is an excellent fighter, great jiu-jitsu, a lot of power, in the hands. Gilbert Burns is fun to watch. He's a great fighter. With that being said, though, it's a 5-round fight against Bilal Muhammad. This is what Bilal wants. This is what Bilal's been looking for. He wants 5-rounders. I think this could look kind of similar to the Luque fight. I don't think Bilal is going to be wanting to shoot a lot of takedowns on a guy like Gilbert Burns, but I feel like Bilal might be able to just outstrike him. And as crazy as it sounds, I think Bilal might be able to outstrike Gilbert Burns. I think he's a very smart fighter. I think Bilal is going to have the better cardio. And I think Bilal is just one of those guys where he finds a way to win. He's not a guy that looks flashy. He's not a guy that looks, he's not the most entertaining, but he finds a way to get it done over and over and over again. People were saying the same thing, not really to the same extent, I'll say, but people were saying similar things about Leon Edwards before he got the belt, how he didn't look impressive, this and that. It's like, if you're getting wins, you're getting wins. Even if people were talking about Edwards, and then what does he do? He goes out and knocks out Usman, right? Goes out, knocks out Usman, and then beats Usman again. Now he's about to fight probably the winner of this. But for Bilal, it's like he's even less impressive as far as, entertainment, as far as, doing, getting crazy knockouts or anything like that. But what he does works. What he does works. And I think it'll work here in a 5-round fight. I think he'll have the cardio. I think he'll, pump the jab out. I think that's going to be one of the things he throws a lot of. I think he's going to throw out the jab over and over, pop Burns, maybe a few times even crack Burns in the late. Like I said, if the fight goes on, I think the best chance that Burns has is early, like first, second round, to try to get Bilal out of there. But as the fight goes on, man, we've seen Gilbert really tired, and I think Bilal's going to be the one that pushes more if things get tough. So give me Bilal Muhammad by decision. Don't think it's, going to be an easy fight, obviously. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think Bilal is going to slightly edge it out. Now we got the main event of the evening. It is Aljamain Sterling taking on Henry Cejudo. And I kind of foreshadowed it earlier when I was talking about Frivola. So I'll get it out of the way. I'll get the pick out of the way right now. I'll say I believe Aljamain Sterling wins this fight against Henry Cejudo, because Henry Cejudo is taking years away, 3 years, right? Just about 3 years away. And in those 3 years, since Henry has taken that time away, Aljo has beaten Corey Sandhagen, submitted him. That Jan fight wasn't really impressive in the slightest. That was a bad way to win the belt. But fights Jan again, wins. I had a 3-2. And then he beats TJ Dillashaw. With, sure, a blown out shoulder. However, you can say, he didn't know that before the fight. It's not his fault that Dillashaw, had a, messed up shoulder. So he did what he had to do. He got the win. Submitting Sandhagen in the first round is very impressive. Very, very impressive. And for Cejudo, obviously he's fighting, fighting on a fight ready. Great gym, great coaching. He's been training a lot of very high level world champions. He trained John Jones for a bit, Zhang Wei Li, Davison Figueiredo, Yuri Prohaska, some of those guys. He's been maybe not the full camp, but has put in work with them. I just feel like the thing with Cejudo is the time away at this weight at 135 at bantamweight. Um, and by the way, Cejudo is 36 years old now. 36 years old now. Aljo should be in his prime at 30. Well, he's about to be 34, so he's not the spring chicken either. But I just think with Cejudo, it's like his age is one thing. The fact that he's been inactive and out of the cage is another. He hasn't been putting in the work that Aljo has recently. And you could say, what about John Jones and Cyril Gane? You could talk about that fight. You can talk about Bisping and GSP. The two common factors in that fight were Bisping and GSP and John Jones and Cyril Gane. Heavier weight class, not as competitive, not even close to as competitive as bantamweight. Bantamweight is a very competitive, very skilled weight class. One of the most skilled, probably the most skilled weight class in the sport is bantamweight. So it's not the same as John Jones and Cyril Gane. I don't think it is. I think Cejudo's timing is going to be a little bit off, at least to start the fight. Despite all the sparring Henry's been doing and all that, his timing is most likely going to be a little bit off. Aljo's been in there a lot more recently. He's probably going to be the one pushing the pace to begin. I think if you're Aljo, you think, all right, I got to win the early rounds. I gotta, I can't let this guy start off hot, and cruise to a win. I gotta, keep the pressure on, not get tagged, because Henry can, he can touch people up a little bit and he can hurt people. Knocked out Dominic Cruz, so it's like, there is some worries, but I think with Sterling, like I said, he's been in the game. He's the better grappler. He's not the better wrestler, obviously. Olympic gold medalist Cejudo, but he's a better. If the fight, hits the mat, I think Sterling's gonna have the advantage, right? His jiu-jitsu is very, very high level. His back takes are incredible. The speed at which he can take someone's back is incredible. You know what I mean? And if he does take your back, you lose a round. Automatically, you're gonna lose the round. So you have to add that in any round. If Henry slips or something, he tries to get back up and Sterling jumps on his back, automatic, round win to Sterling, because it's hard as hell to get out of that body triangle. You know what I mean? And a lot of guys are starting to use it. A lot of really high level grapplers in the sport are starting to use it now, because that's ways that they can hold their opponent and win rounds. I think Sterling's doing really, he's smart to do that. I think he's also been training with a lot of high-level guys, not just at Longo and Weidman. Obviously, his best friend being Merab, being a wrestler, not the caliber of Cejudo, but Merab's probably given him a lot of looks as far as, the pace and the wrestling. I just think he's also, he's been training at Extreme Couture and Syndicate as well. He's been getting looks over there. He's been fighting, training with even the new Bellator champion, Patchy Mix, who I think really highly of. So it's like I feel like he's really been training with high-level competition for, the last few years, whereas Henry Cejudo hasn't. He's been coaching, sure, but he hasn't been competing. And I just don't think at this weight class, he can prove me wrong, but at this weight class, I don't think you can take off 3 years and come back and defeat someone like Aljamain Sterling. So my pick's going to be Aljo. If Henry Cejudo wins, I'll give him a round of applause and say, you know what, you did it again. Yeah, gotta respect him. Probably the GOAT if he beat, or definitely in the conversation. A lot of people are, including himself, obviously considers himself the greatest combat athlete of all time. An incredible, obviously an incredible combat athlete, an incredible martial artist, but I gotta go with the guy that's been in there, the guy that's been active, the guy that, still has a lot to prove, and that's Aljamain Sterling. So those are my UFC 288 full card predictions. Thank you guys very much for watching, and peace out.